and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears.
Nah, boy.
They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing we what they want, so let me vote out there. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Fares, King Scott, living high, dictatorship style. Putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. For them out, for them out, for them out, for them out, for them out.
Stuart Young, minister of everything. He is the king of lying. Don't talk about the buck Imbert, pumping up big gum like an old goat.
Let's talk too much.
Don't talk about Al Rawi, he lacking integrity. 23 million rent and we can't get off cent. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Fares, King Scott, living high, dictatorship style. Putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. Well, this is your Indian political warrior, massive cosign. Take it in your liver.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. For them out, for them out, for them out, for them out, for them out. For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. For them out, for them out, for them out, for them out, for them out.
BNM is the stalwarts of mafia, bubble and corruption. Home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them, them is the real problem. They're doing me what they want, so let me vote up them. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Fares, King Scott, living high, dictatorship style. Putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. For them out, for them out, for them out, for them out, for them out.
Rowley acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears.
Nah, boy.
They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing we what they want, so let me vote out there. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Fares, King Scott, living high, dictatorship style. Putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. For them out, for them out, for them out, for them out, for them out.
Stuart Young, minister of everything. He is the king of lying. Don't talk about the buck Imbert, pumping up big gum like an old goat.
Let's talk too much.
Don't talk about Al Rawi, he lacking integrity. 23 million rent and we can't get off cent. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Forest, King Scott, living high, dictatorship style, putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking CNN. We not voting, them fucking CNN. Well, this is your Indian political warrior, massive cosign. Take it in your liver.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, Boys Bay North. Vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out, vote them out.
You said, of course, President United on all sundry. It is, yes, indeed. It is what the Thursday edition, yes, of course. I should be aware because, of course, this is the penultimate two, the penultimate day two, of course, my breeding period. Of course, that means that Spargos on the Friday. Of course, you hear more about that from Amati and Andy. They like to tease me on a Friday morning on the Brown Report. But of course, I pay that no mind to you too, because of course, Saturday we will be back. But there's a troubling matter that I believe that I would want to veer off what I consider to be the traditional. And of course, share with you that concern. You see, because the elections is upon us. It's on base time, the PNM is celebrating, of course, in their penultimate year in terms of the second term. But the fact of the matter is that they have performed so badly that they start telling themselves that they should give themselves A plus. Or should I say, no, they didn't reach A plus, they reached A. But I give them A plus for, of course, destruction, disaster, and, of course, people, the population that is, having a state or a total or totally consumed with hopelessness, decadence, and of course economic, social, psychological, and of course every single facet of government, or should I say government control elements in society, whether it be the Ministry of Education, whether it be the Ministry of Agriculture, whether it be the Ministry of the Attorney General, whether indeed it is in the office of the Prime Minister, whether it be the Ministry of National Security, yes, National Security, of course. Some of you might have said that should have been spoken of as number one. But then I cannot say number one or number two or number three because of course the Ministry of Health combined with the Ministry of National Security has been deemed as the institutions of death, and therefore the ministers in those two ministries, one of course, well, you have two ministers in one ministry now, even though of course Ronnie was resistant, he was recalcitrant, he engaged or demonstrated a kind of contumacy, yes, contumacy, meaning that of course he simply resisted for resistance sake. And then when there was sufficient deaths or sufficient murders, he then of course tried to placate, tried to deflect, tried to give a sense of what I consider to be waste of time security. Yes, the lines are open, but of course I've not reached the zenith or the real gist of my of tonight's program, which of course I want to focus on Venezuela a bit because it was concerning me all day when I saw certain developments taking place similar to what has happened in China. But let's go straight to the lines. President Knight? No, lost that one. Lost that one? Yes, indeed. Yes, what is happening in Venezuela and reports coming out of Venezuela has not just implications in terms of the economic and social and the demography and our population mix and the pressures that are going to be placed on the ordinary Trinidadian and to accommodate these strangers. I am not advocating xenophobia, understand me clearly. I believe strongly that we must help our neighbors where it is merited, where it is important, to where our humanness and our altruistic nature and our ability to accommodate friends in the domestic arrangement. I understand that there is a problem on YouTube. Let me just listen. Thank you very much for yes, I hope that it has been rectified. Let me just make certain. Yes.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando.
BNM is the stalwarts of mafia, bubble and corruption. Home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them. Them is the real problem. They're doing me what they want, so they be put up them.
Testing. Let me make sure that we are up and running as we ought to. I know that people are calling, of course, expressing their concern. Let me just make certain. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Testing. Yes, I got your multiple messages as to the robot sound that I have been subjected, or you have been subjected to. Testing. Good. Let me make sure that we are up and running as we ought to. I know that people are calling, of course, expressing their concern. Let me just make certain. Yes, indeed. Of course. Now that we have tested it and we know that we are back on stream, you know, I just can't understand this technology. I mean, the rule book is, and I've been doing some studies these days as far as the technology is concerned, and of course airing these programs like these to the population. Yes, and one of the things that they said that you must test every time you start a program. You must test. I have, of course, I have breached that principle tonight, and and I had it in mind, but things were going so well over the last 2 or 3 days that I neglected to do that. And when you feel comfortable, when you feel that things are not going to go wrong, it suddenly goes wrong. But of course, that is Murphy's Law as well. When something has to go wrong, it will at the worst possible time. Yes, but tonight, of course, I was making the point that I will be focusing on Venezuela because there are so much commonalities in terms of and possibilities, and of course to at least highlight and to make people realize that there is sufficient what I consider to be training ground for Rowley to engage in this kind of behavior, because some of the behavior you would see in this particular what I consider to be video biography of the journey of Maduro to dictatorship and autocracy. We are seeing that displayed, even though, of course, we have a smaller population, and of course, the possibility that the impact on international and regional countries on Trinidad and Tobago will make it almost impossible for Rowley to act in every regard, in every respect, as Maduro. But what we have seen already in Trinidad, I mean, I was part and parcel of Pushback 1 and Pushback 2, and people were literally charged they were held, of course, intimidating the population not to go out there and protest. As soon as people say Raul must go, the police clamp down. We are seeing the same thing in Venezuela now. So I want to make certain that you understand that all is not safe and hunky-dory, because Raul will be taking lessons and observing what is happening in Venezuela. It's not that Raul and Maduro don't know that the people, the majority of the people in Venezuela don't like him or don't like them and want them out of office, just as Raul knows that. But they are prepared to impose themselves, their wicked selves, on the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and in the case of Venezuela, Maduro. We have to be conscious, and therefore I thought tonight, instead of course of continuing that part of the program where of course we contact persons who can make a difference, who are shakers and movers in society, as we started last night with David Lee and in Dar Singh, I say tonight for the last time, or should I say for the first and last time, we should look at the situation in Venezuela and make some kind of analytical comparison so that we look for and know what to expect. That is important. And so it is against that background, I thought it was important, of course, to find an appropriate biography, video, in order to demonstrate that Raul is made of the same material of Maduro. It's just that he cannot act as Maduro because, for example, Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have anything that Russia wants or the Chinese wants in sufficient quantity. Our population is just 1.5 million. But as Raul would like to make us believe, and as Cuba has been able to demonstrate, you see, Raul is a student of history as well, that you can have your way dictatorially, autocratically, impose yourself on the people, your will on the people, even though you are small. And I have been observing Raul's utterances that we are small, but we have major influence and impact in the world. And I thought it was important, of course, to focus on that particular aspect of it. Let's go to the lines immediately. We will engage the lines in spite of that video that is yet to be, of course, started in your interest. But a pleasant good night. Welcome.
I wanted to call and make a contribution tonight.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
And then you could respond, and I won't rattle on and confuse people who are listening to the program. But you see, this oil and gas industry is very big. People take it for granted that they're just getting natural gas and oil, and who cares? We could do away with oil. Petroleum industry is it keeps this world moving. It keeps technology moving, from Vaseline to all kinds of grease for motors and engines. It drives the industrial sector and even technology. Rockets need it, spaceships need it. You know what I mean, Lennox?
Yeah, very
right.
Familiar.
So we can't, yes.
Yeah.
And there are investors in Trinidad, people who invested here since oil was discovered, and they're not like us. They're not local. Some of them are now because they've elevated themselves, because they connected with people, because it's a very tight network of people who work in the energy sector. And I believe that the Prime Minister and all the leaders in the past have acted on their behalf. And I'll include Kamala Bissessa because she did visit Venezuela and she was photographed with him. That's a fact. But the problem we have here is that the problem of Venezuela, where we have a leader who has become now a dictator, kind of. Now he is controlling all the wealth of the country, and some of it is controlled by gangs and drug dealers, and they they're in illegal trade right now because they are sanctioned and they're not supposed to, bring wealth like gold bars and all that stuff. Venezuela has trillions of dollars in different banks all over. It's not a poor country.
Yes.
But we are next door to Venezuela, and we are an oil country next to Guyana, pretty close. And Guyana has stood up and castigated Maduro in a lot of ways because they are fighting for their survival too. But we in Trinidad, we are located 23 miles off the east coast of Venezuela. A good swimmer could probably swim to Venezuela. And you could take any little fishing boats and go there. But we have become so silent because the investors here don't want to rock any boats. And if we were to all now criticize the leadership of Venezuela and challenge Maduro and people protest here in mass, you will see how quickly that will spread to other islands. You will see how quick OAS will wake up. Because it's a delicate situation. The CIA can't just come and assassinate that man. And they've tried before. These are real issues that impact us. You know what I mean? And we're next door. It impacts the future of where we're going. And I believe that the Prime Minister is a mere puppet to all the rich investors who he answers to. And when I say puppet, they give him gifts. And he collects gifts from foreign countries, cars, and all kind of little things for us. Meanwhile, all the billions of dollars in the energy sector is doled out to the elites who use politicians as puppets. And if we don't see what's happening in Venezuela, then we're all blind. Because I'll tell you, every politician is being very careful. They're pussyfooting around the issue. They won't jump on it and say, we take a stand. Last night, Mr. Young, David Lee did mention a few things, but the country had illegal ballots. Voting, you can't vote, and we talk to the people who come here. We could talk to the Vennies who live there, and they'll tell you how terrible it is. Their dump site is big as our island. Caracas has the biggest dump site. These people go through garbage. It's very important. We haven't seen the lineage of the African slaves from Venezuela coming here because they're too poor to get on a boat. They can't pay the fee. They're so poor. And if we don't see those things, we will never... If we don't hear about it, we'll be very quiet. And we have been so quiet about this issue. And the Prime Minister will never get up and say, we are a democracy. We will never trade with a country like Venezuela. That he's ruining the people's lives next door and impacting our economy here. All he cares about is the oil. And Stuart Young flying back and forth in the middle of the night, working deals out with a country that's oppressing people. And women are getting raped here every day. And they never talk about it. The exploitation is going to continue. And I say exploitation. Lennox, I'm going to say another comment.
Go ahead.
You see, I'm going to make it quick.
Yes.
The comment is this. You remember the Matouk's bottle?
Yes.
With the Trinidad woman, she's a round African lady.
With the hair tie.
With her head.
Yeah, looking as though it's a Baptist orientation, but from African heritage. Go ahead, yes.
When you so much of Aunt Jemima, how they stereotype Africans in America, they do that to us down here. They stereotype our people. That woman I heard on that can was one of the Matouk's maid. They took a photograph and they put it on that. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, somebody told me who knew it. And I said, you're kidding me, right? And they said, no. And I said, did her family get any kind of royalties from the photograph? And they said, I don't know. But those people are so nice. And the Matouks, they don't care. They dress like us and they're really, really nice people. Of course they are. They're billionaires. They don't build schools down here. They sell Matouks all over the United States. And it's in US dollars they're getting. They don't have to worry about Forex. You see the rich people in this country. Let me tell you something. When the country really turns over, you'll see how quick all of them will jump in a plane and fly out. Lennox, yes. We have to be serious about these issues.
Of course. That is why I thought it was important to share that tonight and to highlight it. And I want to tell you personally, I didn't think I would have had the the occasion so to do. But I think tonight is, I think your sensitivity and your understanding has surpassed, of course, I think many expectations, and therefore I should say ultimately go to the top of the class. I think you have
appreciate your comment.
Yes, you have
That's good feedback,
yes.
and I really respect you a lot,
yes,
because you are trying, and you're not. And listen, Lennox, you're not out doing this to get a job with the UNC, okay? You're not out to do this. You're out to report the truth and tell the truth.
That's right.
And we don't have to call names and keep saying the Prime Minister pedophile. You know, we know what the Prime Minister did.
Yes.
Actually, Jerry Seinfeld from America dated a 17-year-old girl when he was 37 or 38.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
These people are
but
crazy.
I say it for a very specific reason, to taunt him, and at the same time to have others see him for the scum that he is, and to, in a real sense, prevent him from riding roughshod as he would otherwise be able to do if we remain silent. You see, silence is a dagger in the heart, the heart of a democratic society, when evil prevails and attempt to dominate. Yes.
I want to just say, you know, all this crime taking place right now, and I said this before, that Trinidad you don't have a right to a speedy trial. So you put a guy, people robbing and killing each other. Police now just killing people now. Yes. Because do you want to wait 50 years for a trial? Come on. You know, and that is all intentional. It's all intentional to keep us confused. So they take all the money. Yeah. All right. Thanks
very much, because there are one or two calls coming in. I know that.
I know. All right.
Yeah, I know. Don't see it as interruption. I know that the video, I'll have to pause it from time to time, so I'm preparing that. But of course, it's important that we look at the comparison, people. Let me be very, very, very clear here. We have an election coming up. We have seen by demonstration, actions, policies, and programs the evil of this administration, and there are keen similarities to what is going on or has been going on in Venezuela, and the deafening silence of this administration shows that they relish a similar scenario. That is the conclusion we have to draw, and therefore we must not. In other words, when our neighbor's house is on fire, we must wet ours as a people. A pleasant good night. Welcome. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Yes, Miss Venezuela. Yes, Miss Arima. Whichever one.
Miss Arima.
All right. Okay. Good.
Lennox, I had to come in now.
Yes, go ahead.
I couldn't stick a pin.
Yes.
I want to congratulate Miss Madras. I couldn't stick a pin because if I only wait till later on, I would lose track on something I want to say concerning what she said.
I hear you. Go ahead.
And this is what I wanted. You see the part where she said that Rowley is a puppet for these people?
Yes.
And that if we react, meaning if we protest and keep pushing, the other islands in CARICOM, right?
Yes.
Would recognize what it is going on, right? Although they know it, that is the leader.
Yeah.
But she's speaking about the people in the country.
A movement, a conscious movement, yeah.
They're not alert like us. As I told you the other night, they don't have the problems we have here with the influx of these Venezuelans, right?
Yes.
So if we here react and push and jam this puppet, who I've been saying to the people in the country, the citizens here, he's a puppet, right? She studied the OAS well, so she said if we only push, then the OAS would react. You see, they wouldn't jump into an issue just like that. The other night she told you they know all what's going on. Right? But I want to tell Ms. Madras, if you study that organization well, they don't jump in just like that. But you see, if it have protests and, well, you know, you show up things, they will react. They will call a meeting. Right? So we here in Trinidad have to deal with this best salesman. We always say, let's get together. right?
Yes.
And work out things and cipher out this man with this mafia here and there with Nicolas Maduro,
Yes.
right? And what I want to say is that Miss Madras understand a lot about a lot of things. And what she said there, if anybody else knows something, they could come in and we could work and cipher. As you were saying too, you now noticing the connection with he and Nicolas Maduro and Diaz-Canal, which is Cuba, the Cuban-Venezuelan mafia. This is how we have to talk, because it is no secret. We have to have no fear. Once you hold back, he could jam with silence, right? So you now realizing, but I was talking all the time. And it's now people saying, but praise God, I talk plenty. So it's not hard for people to catch on, right? They are together. They just talk all the time. Never mind Nicolas talking Spanish. It's not Nicolas he does be talking with. It's Delcy. Delcy speaks English fluent. Stuart Young just talk with Delcy right through. He don't have to go. She speaks English, right? All of them know that. I told you all already she speaks English. Lennox, I gave you a tape.
No, I saw it. I saw it when she was at the
talking.
international.
Don't come across me. Don't play smart for me here tonight.
No, I am merely endorsing what you're saying. I'm playing smart. I'm endorsing what you're saying. I'm saying that yes, you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you never show it to the public to convince people.
I will explain after you're finished.
This is how the game had to go.
Go ahead.
This is how it had to play.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these things that we talking here, I ain't supposed to be talking how to plan for them. We are supposed to be talking, but nobody wants to get together. Right? Malcolm X keep talking, but I don't talk these things, and I'm not talking. I will talk once, and I will say exactly how I feel. A lot of time was wasted. It was wasted, and you see now, it kinda too late. Because where they getting catch here now, he could show you real colors, you know. That's how they will drop it. They will show their real colors and get real bad. In time to come, he will say, all they want to overthrow the government. All they is criminals. That's what the next one doing over there. Right? Everybody is a criminal for here and want to kill him and all of that. And this one doing the same thing because they just plan what to do here and what to do there. What they could do there, they can't do here. As you notice, he not that brave. But still, he creep up on me and he catch me in a lot of things. I used to be saying, this is Trinzuela. This country is being run by Nicolas Maduro. This country don't run by Rowley. Rowley is a big puppet and a dum-dum. Right? So you all see where we reach now? This country, I'm repeating it again, is not being run by this government. And be careful how all you're talking. Right.
That's it. Thank you very much, of course, for that contribution and that endorsement. But I let me get back to where I started. I made the point that there are similarities between what is happening in Venezuela and what is unfolding in Trinidad and Tobago, which we are experiencing. And I was drawn to the intensity or the potency of this development, having regard to the conclusion and the consequence upheaval, if you want to call that, protest that is taking place in Venezuela. And of course, no one can accuse members of the ground report LENNOX SMITH or anyone of not being conscious of these facts. In fact, I was the one who, through freedom of information, and I could prove it, I have no cocoa in the sun or anything to, of course, defend, but as someone who recognized that Rowley had no basis for bringing in Delcy Rodriguez in Trinidad and Tobago, and of course, having spoken to my colleagues on the ground report, Andy and Mikey, I was the one charged with the responsibility through the freedom of information, and I read it out consistently. Maybe there's a need to revisit that, which we will do next week, in terms of the response. And it was both hilarious as well as very serious, the responses, because of course the permanent secretary in the office of the Prime Minister, who is the titular officer to respond to freedom of information matters, said she's almost ignorant, and she don't know if they talk in Spanish, she don't know who made the arrangement, she don't know when they came, she don't know who met the delegation at the airport, or who met the delegation at the Prime Minister's residence and or office, and we can go on and on in terms of pleading ignorance. After that, of course, we saw consequential of that, and I know that there's a nexus between that effort to try to simmer down or try to cover up that incident and the intensity of the investigations by of course revealing all of the information on the Prime Minister's office page. I'm talking about Facebook page, so that nobody could, after that, because that is the rule, if there is information in the public domain, there is no need for the particular office to respond to any query. So we understand that strategy. And then, of course, we were the ones that organized the pushback movement to where we got what? Charged 32 persons, and then, of course, tear gas. But one would have expected that no one would have expected that Maduro would have been so intensely, what I consider to be, anti his people, and renege on promises that he made to the United States and the US had kicked him out, but certainly the United States in Barbados prior to the elections that just completed, claiming that he will do his best to have free and fair elections. And of course, in exchange for that, the United States will look at sanctions relief, because of course Venezuela has been mired in sanctions from the West in particular, while of course at the same time having allies such as the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians, as well as the Cubans. So all of that is well known. So that is not new. The issue is that now that we have a new development taking place in Venezuela that will intensify the migration, and at the same time, simultaneously almost, we have an impending elections here in Trinidad, and we have seen, of course, certain characteristics of Maduro, all of which I mentioned earlier, being exhibited by this government. We don't know what they will do next in terms of attempting to stay in office, because they know that they have done so much evil that what is really required of the population and the ultimate consequence of their own action must be criminally oriented. In other words, they must make a jail. I predict in the case of Venezuela, once the people continues, of course, the course that they are taking, that that Maduro will, of course, seek as asylum, seek, of course, the assistance of the Russians and the Chinese and so on. When he must realize, and all of them would advise him, because it has happened to the Panamanian, it has happened to Nicaragua, and of course other dictators across the globe, including the most recent one in Bangladesh. The prime minister there just fled to India, that gave her accommodation in order to, of course, avoid the bloodbath that would have been inevitable, as people were prepared to commit suicide in defense of their country and therefore their democracy and their way of life. So that is understood. That to me is common sense. So I'm not going to blow my own lapel or, of course, trumpet anybody's let's say position on the matter. The fact of the matter is that here it is, we have Venezuela threatening to overwhelm Trinidad, and whether Rowley believes or is in fact a puppet of that particular type of autocratic and dogmatic and dictatorial disposition, we as a people, and that is where I am going, we as a people must not only become conscious but must take action. So what I am prepared to do, and I'm going to tell you now, I will be writing just as how I wrote to the International Criminal Court when, of course, Kamala Prasad Bisesa in 2011. I have the letter, the response there. So that is not gainsaying. But I have the letter there when I, of course, wrote there indicating. We have a caller? We have a caller online? Sorry about that. Yeah. In indicating my concern with respect, of course, to the selective curfew and the selective state of emergency in the beginning, and then of course it was a national curfew, a national state of emergency, and then of course I withdraw my concern with the International Criminal Court. Well, I'm saying with respect to Rowley and our election coming, then of course we will be putting a dossier together to attract the OAS as well as the United States State Department, the International Criminal Court, and of course the Latin American Commission for Human Rights. That is where we are going. Because the proximity of this election, and in other words the closeness of it, requires intensity and intensification. We couldn't do it 3 years before or so, because Rowley would have had all of the leeway and all of the wiggling room to, of course, say all kinds of things to try to, because the election was not yet an issue, but now it is an issue, and therefore we have to take preemptive action. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yes, I'm Lennox. I'm Silver Fox here.
Yes, sir.
Lennox, I want to understand this. How we reach here? How we reach here with Rowley? How what really happened? Rowley take the merit list. Rowley put his own president. Rowley closed down Petrochin. What Rowley do? I can't understand it. And everybody watch Rowley do what he want, because he balling up and he balling up and he balling up, and they becomes afraid of him. I want to know, if election come and Rowley win election, what Trinidad and Tobago really would do. I still believe they will still sit down like sheep, because right now they're like sheep in a pen. Rowley is all I am telling all you. That man is not lying down and play dead, because that man is not giving up power. Because it was said that he was not going back, but he has to go, because he knows. Are you talking about bracelet, silver bracelet, and silver this? Remember, Rowley have his own president. Rowley can be pardoned for the things he do, right? So I want to know how we get here. Everybody sit down and watch Rowley do what he wants in this country, right? What he wants. Nobody are coming out and stand up against him. Every night you might keep a meeting and keep a meeting, Rowley this and Rowley. The more we talk and the more we talk Rowley this and Rowley that, is the more Rowley doing. What Rowley is one man. He's a human being like us. Why Rowley should not be in power at this present time, right? He are coming just like Haiti, and we know that. We know that. Right now we are slaves in our own country. Just imagine you build a house and you had to be paying back. You had to pay property tax for your own house. You own nothing in this country. We own nothing in this country, and everything is this non-disclosure. We know if Rowley sell with China for non-disclosure. We don't even know where we stand in this little island of Trinidad and Tobago. Look today. I was so sad. I make a call to Trinidad and talking to a certain person. And you know what that person told me, Lennox? That they don't like Tobagonian, right? And the person tell me they don't know what tourists coming in Tobago from Trinidad. That we should poison them. That doesn't sound good. And she said they don't care. They don't care what if I feel it or not. I just hang up the phone, Lennox, right? Because you see the wear off. The people are calling the wear off, right? And we want Rowley. We throwing out Rowley to vote the cooling woman. That's just what they told me. And I hung up the phone on them because I am not standing for racism. I am not racist, right? My family have Indian in them too, and plenty people don't know their family have Indian in them, and they call it Indian is black people. Indian is black people too. What I am not against nobody. Because everybody has to contribute in this little Trinidad and Tobago. Is one love. Rowley is a tyrant. Rowley is no good. And they were Rowley because they have. You know what is. Look. I have to pay 1,008 next month on the 31st. Where I getting that money to pay, and I doing some repairs on my house. And no government are helping me. What is really happening? And we still seeing down. What we seeing down for? Trinidad and Tobago, we need to get up. Oh God, what do you want again to get up? What do you want again to get up? Just now, he might bring his own security from Venezuela and put them here against us. That's the only thing left for him to do again. What is wrong with the people? Are they for real? All is living dead. Lennox, what's wrong with the people of Trinidad and Tobago? The union is standing up. Nobody is standing up. Nobody. Everybody only gun talking. And it have nobody doing nothing. Look in Tobago, you had a robbery in Lowlands Mall. That's close to me.
Yes, I heard of it. After, of course, 6
and if you see how that
themselves killed
kick up that person on the ground with no remorse. This is what we want. This is what we want. We don't even have a place for that again. Place, man.
All right, thank you, because we have some other calls coming in. All right, thanks very much. I had to respond, but of course, thank you. Tonight you'll find me very brutal, people, because that is where it has reached. The election is upon us. Rowley will be looking for another term, as Maduro has. And of course, he's going to try to steal the elections. We know that, just as Maduro has. And we have to be brutal and frank, and therefore avoid the pitfalls of the Venezuelan population. But I am going to make my own analysis afterwards. But go ahead, caller, because we give way to the callers as we normally would. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
A pleasant good night to you, Mr. Lennox.
Yes, good night to you.
And all your listeners
yes.
on the World Wide Web. A pleasant good evening to all of them.
Yes.
Mr. Lennox, I like the topic you choose tonight. Dictator in making. I will just briefly summarize on your editorial.
Yes.
So we can. I will try to see if I can make myself a complete donkey with a short tail or a long ears.
I hear you.
Because the evidence you are asking for, you are my friend, right?
Yes.
And let me see now. I stand to be corrected. When I came in on false narrative, I hoodwinked my supporters and them. And they didn't know I was an NJAC man and fighting against the PNM for oppression against black people. They didn't know that I came into the PNM, but I don't know what is the founding father principle and the real organized structure of the PNM for the people. But I hoodwink them and I get into power. So now you're asking for evidence. You remind me and see if the EBC first tested, right?
Caller, just hold on. We have another call. We have a caller before you, but
Okay.
we'll take you in a while. Go ahead, Mr. Faizabad. Go ahead, Mr. Faizabad. Faizabad? Oh, he's gone. All right, okay, Mr. Tagarigo, go ahead.
LENNOX,
Yes.
you're frightening Rowdy so much. I talk about him all head. I saw the news that the man put on a cap, you know. In some market playing with a set of letters. I see that on CNC3 news and you have all a cap.
You have a cap, finally.
Yes, why?
Yeah, because he tried to, he has so much vanity and so narcissistic and self-serving that, of course, he tried to make a natural bald head look artificial. So probably he got tired of it.
And he played up with a set of letters and all kind of thing.
All right. I haven't seen that spectacle as yet. You know, Mr. Tagariga, you know, one time in 2007 when I was contesting and watching Rowley and so on, and, you know, the fact that he wasn't blessed with any pulchritudinous qualities, meaning that beauty, I wanted to go I was minded to go on a platform, and when I am announcing him, I will have, of course, a mask of a orangutan, and when I'm talking about him with his false bald head, etc., I just put it on and say he's trying to prevent people from looking at this, and just put it on. I'm sure it would have attracted a lot of laughter, but of course they will see it as graphic as possible. That ugly son of a gun. But go ahead, my friend.
But boy, when I see a man with that cap tonight, I say, you're so frightening yet. And he's just so fed up only talking about him all that.
Yes. No, because that's vanity, you know. He don't want people to know that is so. He doesn't even want to look in the mirror to see that head of hair that moves from around his head to both sides of his temple. Because he don't want to look like, he don't want to have a hairstyle like Wade Mark or Dr. Tim Gobi Singh at all. He mortally afraid that. So he just shave that every morning. Of course, it's an artificial bald head he has created from a very long time, because it looks as though it is genetic, because his son looks like him as well in terms of the hairstyle. I will show that in due course when we're going closer to the elections, to the son that was produced as a consequence of rape. Yes.
But more importantly, they get frightened because election coming just now.
Yes. Let me take this call.
All kind of thing.
Yes. Caller, just hold on. I have someone on the handset. Go ahead.
Because they can't have no election. That is understood.
Of course. But we have to ensure, and everything we do is to focus on that reality that they must not win.
Let me tell you something, eh? But if they lose, which they should, you see all these cycling velodrome, market center, aquatic center, but they enjoy what camera bill.
Yes.
They will call that cow shed, boy. So don't pay, no?
I know. For political purposes and so on, and of course the race card and the brace baiting and all
Yes.
that. We will deal with all of those and very graphically and upfront. No holds bar. We have to let it out now that the election is upon us.
All right. Well,
Yes.
you got to talk.
Yes, thank you very much for your contribution. Go ahead, Miss. Go ahead, caller, Miss Anna Cruz. Go ahead.
Good night, Lennox.
Good night
to you.
Yes. Good night
And
to
to
you.
the
Sir.
genuine supporters on the corridor transformation.
Yes.
Lennox,
Hey.
I'm listening to you, and I like what you said tonight. You're coming on brutal.
Yes.
Lennox, I totally agree with you. You write who you have to write. You understand? We have to get things done in this country, and if that's the only way to get it done, you do it.
That's
and
right.
I'm 100% behind you, Lennox. Now, you can hear the hurt in Silver Fox voice.
Yes,
You
yes,
can
yes.
hear, I mean, Lennox, why it is that we have to be so nasty and racial in this country? If it's not coolie, it's lice all over their body.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
all they can talk about.
Yeah.
That is all, you understand?
Yeah.
Because, you see, Lennox, there is a nasty mindset. That is their nasty mindset, right? The Indian woman was doing more for them than the African man that they put on a pedestal. And they can't see that. They can't see that. And Lennox, let me tell you something, I am of the belief, and I was talking about it with somebody today, the murder rate is higher than what the police is telling us.
Obviously. I mean, it goes without saying that anybody with a modicum
because
of
it
common
looks as
sense will know
though
that.
they
Yes.
want to keep down the statistic. I don't know who they make keeping it down to make look good. I don't know. But I am convinced, Lennox, and you know I am really very wrong, right? That the murder rate is higher.
Yeah.
Lennox, this morning I had to go down to this to the St. James Infirmary, to the pharmacy down there, to get my medication.
Uh-huh.
Lennox, I reached down there at 6:30, right? There were already 13 people in front of me.
Yes.
6:30, 13 people in front of me. Lennox, imagine in this day and age, okay, they finally put up a tent because of the rain and so outside.
Yeah.
But look as though it's a permanent fixture now.
Okay.
They had a couple of chairs in there.
Oh, yes,
Lennox,
I passed there
and the
recently and I
chairs
saw
and
that, yes, on my way to one of the areas in the west. Yes, I saw it. Yes. Go ahead.
Right. Well, and the chairs and them eventually mash up. Lennox, there's one bench against the wall of the pharmacy.
Wow.
People have to sit on the little wall. You want to tell me, Lennox, they spend how much 200,000 or 2 million in wooden ladders for the fire services. They couldn't build 3 benches to put under that tent for people to sit on. People coming here for medication have to stand because everybody come early, right? We have to stand, Lennox. This place is going from bad to worse. Then when you get there now, you're not getting all the medication. You're not getting all the medication, right? And if people want to sit down and scratch, right, and want to talk about other people's children or whatever they want to do, and don't get up.
We lost you.
You are calling to Miss Woodbrook. Miss Woodbrook always say this,
Yes, yes.
How many times or why do we have to be begging people? And I say it all the time as well. Why do we have to be begging people to come out? You all are seeing what it is going on. It not bothering all you? It not bothering all you? That all you would not come out and support a march against this government? No, everybody waiting for elections. Well, let us see now when the elections are called what the results are going to be. Because we know Rowley ain't leaving there now. We know he's not leaving.
On his
He's
own
going to go out
volition.
his
Yeah,
stand.
his own volition. He wants to stay there. Yeah. On
Yeah,
his own,
yeah.
He's not going to
Yeah,
do
he
so
want them
on
to cast
principle.
him in
No,
stone.
yeah.
He want them to cast him in stone.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
But I want to tell him they will do him worse than what they do Saddam Hussein. You see how they pull down the statue? You saw what they did to him? And I heard Silver Fox talking about the payment of the property tax. Lennox, I got my new assessment form this morning. I have to fork out $2,700 by the 30th of September.
Wow.
Yeah?
Wow.
I have to fork out that. So, that is the situation we are in. Lennox, thanks a lot and have a good night.
Yes, indeed. I'm certainly going to Thank you very much. Of course, I tried to get that opportunity to be brutal as possible, but I see calls coming in. Pleasant good night. Pleasant good night. Yes, let me make sure.
You're going to be brutal because here what's going on.
Go ahead.
So when, and good night to all investors again. So when the EDC tested, right, and given the election, he get confident. So they call people all kind of insultive name.
Yes.
But when he started to dismantle the different custodians of the Constitution, meaning the different service commissions, right? That is the dictatorship. It was coming to fruition, not making again. And he started to dismantle every single institution. And he went to the parliament to water down every single laws that govern the true rightful governance of this country. Then we find out now about the Integrity Commission, the cell that commissioner, to do what? To put a new deputy auditor general and the $700 million. Yes? Where was the Integrity Commission? You see it? Then they come now and the procurement legislation, the Minister of Finance get the power in his hand, and what happened? But when there was debated, it will take 6 and 7 months, and 8 months and 9 months to buy toilet paper. Then you get a set of corrupt businessmen to come to this country, and they're giving them the equity and the foreign exchange earners. I want to know, and I know that contribution just a little while ago, that the PNM trying to bring back the race baiting, right? But I want to ask the PNM supporters and them tonight through your program, if you want to be brutal, right?
Yes.
If Keith Rowley and the PNM love Indian people so much, why he has so much inside the parliament and not the African diaspora, and yet still all pushing the narrative outside to divide and see how to win. And yes, this country of ours is so beautiful. But you see, when 30 grams and 4 trees, right, enter this country, they knock out a certain level and an age group, so that they're not vulnerable, they become vulnerable and not thinking conscious towards the betterment of the future. And you're seeing where we pushing unity, and just a few, just as Kunta Tete was fighting to freedom, they started pushing back. Then he come now, 2028, but the revenue of the gas we get in here, right? They're not telling the people where the revenue and the windfall one. And he hoodwinked them for 9 years with dazzling and buffering with BS. You know this slang, right? And that's what they're holding on to, a false dream where the United National Congress had made it better for everybody. Every single thing. And Sunday coming in the Congression, the Committee for Constitutional Reform, all you're hearing about, food for thought. And I want them to think about this one. That he wants to talk about the Constitution report. And you know what it is about? It pushing to restructure the Service Commission and the Employment Public Service. Have a nice night.
Yes, indeed, my friend. I want to commend you as well, go to the top of the class, for one issue that you raised there in your multiple contribution, and that is the attempt by this government to pretend that Indians are persona non grata, that all of them are corrupt, and that they have no place in the politics of the country. They must not get their hands on the treasury of the country. But that is by symbolism only. You know what I say? I said the PNM is about symbolism. So the African symbol, that is Rowley, is to, and part and parcel of the propaganda machinery, to keep the African community submissive and to focus on ethnicity by having this dunderhead, this miscreant, this charlatan, this evil, this diabolical, this Luciferian, this egregious pedophile, and of course rapist, to telegraph to the African community that somehow there is no Indians enjoying very, very high position and authority in the PNM. Let us not waste time. A typical Maduro does not have that element, because it's a homogeneous society generally in terms of its population, except for the first people that have been sidelined all entirely and dispossessed and not part of the process in general in Venezuela. So he has that, so he doesn't display that. But this is unique to us here, and we need to identify that fact that Rowley and they are just playing the ass in attempting, of course, to make the African community believe that somehow the Indians, and only because of the symbol of the Indian in the UNC. Remember, when there was no such symbol in the 1986 election, run up to the 1986 election, where there was African, the PNM then, of course, concocted. Understand, it's about power. They concocted the what? The dragon and the red house. Don't forget that. Because Robinson would have been an African too, so they couldn't use the race card. Don't be an ass, Africans. It is about time these fellas know that we are onto them. But let's go straight to the line before, of course, I play part of that video. It looks as though I might be able to play it, or I might have to leave it here and go and get something to eat and come back. Because, of course, tonight seems to be a night where we need to rest the cards on the table, rest it on them. Because, of course, I still have to fund myself tomorrow night. But go ahead, caller. A pleasant good night.
A pleasant good night to you, LENNOX SMITH, and everybody. And a pleasant good night.
Yes.
LENNOX SMITH.
Yes.
Today I was listening to Heavy and TC program today, and I ain't to tell you, although my deck in again a little trouble to just come in and out. Heavy, one of Heavy cousin called the program this evening, and watch her. That woman telling she cousin PNM all the way, PNM until the dead. And when the action she, if you ain't care about what's going on in the country, she balling about PNM forever and using what she supporting PNM because she parents and she grandparents supporting PNM. And I saying to myself, when they study back in Garden of Eden, it's a snake that deceived Eve. And then Adam, the devil come in and form as a snake and convince Eve, if she eat from that fruit, she will be like a god. She will get wise. But this snake will have any balize where the PNM symbol is concerned, creating these people and them to be zombies, they're more like living dead. Because when you ask them a simple question, why are you supporting the PNM and what policies that they have in place that benefit you? All look at turn around and tell you, great is the PNM. And I realize, and I will continue to say, Rowley went Ghana and interfere with some demon spirit and have it sitting down on the next at Trinidad and Tobago citizen. Dr. Listen.
Thank you very much. But of course, I beg to differ from the perspective that is expected. The difference must be, however, that the majority of us in a system where we have what is called the first past the post, winner take all, that in every constituency the majority must be persons who are conscious in terms of the electoral process. That's all is required. In other words, I respond to, of course, Silver Fox's concern, how we got here, because it's important that we look at that. Well, there are ample, irrefutable, and very potent, and indeed not just arguable, but cannot be disputed evidence. Hitler, remember, rise to power. Hitler rose to power, and it's the same discussions the people of Germany were engaged in, and there were people who were saying that Hitler could do nothing wrong. Let me repeat. Hitler couldn't do anything wrong in Germany at a certain point in time until they faced the reality, as Trinidad and Tobago is now of necessity have to face, and the people of Venezuela now have to face. Remember, Chavismo in Venezuela was a populist agenda that gave Chavez, a man who was jailed, attempted, of course, uprising, a mutiny in Venezuela, was jailed, and coming out of that, he became a populist figure, and one thing led to the next, and eventually he got to the position of president. And then, of course, after and over time, and demonstrated a certain level of loyalty, the man called Maduro was a bus driver, so he has nothing to lose. Rowley was a lowly lecturer in some university, sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes everywhere, sometimes in places where volcanoes require a volcanologist or a rock expert, a geologist, Montserrat, etc. He will tell you about that. But it doesn't matter where their genesis from. When they get the essence of power, they don't want to leave, and they are averse to criticism, incompetent as they are, but are prepared to be brutal, because there are people who are prepared to sustain that brutality simply because they take the resources of the state. A bus driver cannot be able to pay large sums or large numbers of people, but haven't gotten office, haven't benefited from Chavez's popularity. He capitalized on that and moving, and then, of course, having recognized that he in the palace and all of the perks of that office, as well as, of course, the mechanisms of government and the offices and the institutions, he was able to manipulate, as we are seeing now with Rowley. Rowley is a total asshole. Total. He ought not to have been in government at all, just as Maduro ought not to be. But fate for them make it happen. Just as how Hitler wasn't supposed to be either. Mussolini in Italy wasn't supposed to be. Saddam Hussein wasn't to be in that Middle Eastern country that he governed with extreme brutality. I'm talking about Iraq. So let us not waste time. We have a situation where it's only when the sham election processes that they would, of course, manipulate and superintend to get them back into government, whilst the people suffer. And the people, of course, some do it in silence and some do it out of betrayal, and at the same time being privileged and identified, as we are seeing with Rowley. Rowley has his minions. Let's not waste time. You expect everybody. It's the treasury the man have, you know. It's just as Maduro. Whether legitimate, illegitimate, the fact is that once you have a substantial part of the law enforcement or the coercive mechanisms and institutions on your side, it's only when they forsake you, such as in Zimbabwe recently, Robert Mugabe had to go. Only when that happens. And there are many other instances where that has happened. So let us not waste time and don't understand where we are. Dictators have their following. So Rowley is expected to have their following if you read the situation correctly. And I agree with all the callers that Trinidad and Tobago's position is different. What he's going to use is, of course, the race card, but it does not take away his manipulation and attempt to undermine and subvert the institutions of the country, as we have seen. It does not take away an excuse to, of course, tear gas the population. It does not take away an excuse to, of course, charge as much people as possible to set an example so you coward the rest of them. No. And we must understand that these realities. So the philosophical position that is only when good people stand idly by and see evil like Rowley and they dominate and persevere. There are other nuances and variables that you must factor into the situation, and you cannot say that that's simply like what we would normally say, that of course evil cannot prevail over good. That is a fact. That is a fundamental. That's the ultimate. That's the ideal. But that comes over time when, of course, the life cycle, so to speak, of these dictators would have come to an end. But there's a life cycle, just as a mosquito. Mosquito lays eggs. It turns, of course, to larvas, the egg in water. Then you have pupas. And then, of course, it emerges as a mosquito in the form that we know it, that is wreaking all kinds of havoc in Trinidad and Tobago today. I'm talking here about the Aedes aegypti and dengue and yellow fever and other diseases. So it's just, it is similar. And we have to understand, but it is always some circumstance that would create the eventual topple. Rowley has had 10 years by the time the end of next year, or I should say by next year. And therefore we had enough time to see, just as some people had enough time to see who Hitler was, Mussolini, Robert Mugabe, Saddam Hussein. Understand what is happening here. And if you want to, if you want other examples, of course, in the Latin America, well then of course we have Noriega in Panama. Noriega in Panama. All the unleashing of evil, all the unleashing of wickedness, all the unleashing of long suffering by the people against, of course, a regime that clearly was bent on subduing the people and engaging, of course, in brutal and horrendous acts, inhumane, come to an end. And even in that process of termination, there are people who will hold on to it. So do not be surprised when, of course, people who you considered to be at one time swaying public opinion, no, you know you can't take them on, whether it be, of course, Helen Drayton, whether it be Father Harvey. Nobody listen to them, the Calypsonians. You see, they stop talking or singing or producing calypsos against even the UNC. You see that? So the cycle is nearing an end, or has come to an end. We know who they are. You see, but prior to that, there are some people with vision, probably, and maybe because they have a unique position, you know, something like persons who have a unique product, so they have a niche. So Miss Arima, clearly in this circumstance, had a knowledge niche. But it doesn't mean that people like myself did not understand what was unfolding. That is why we took certain action. Because one could accuse, for example, Mr. Rima of only talk. One could also accuse Silver Fox of only talk, in spite of the fact that he is expressing concern and asking people why they're not coming out, etc., etc. But the proof of the pudding are people who are prepared to take the necessary action individually, collectively, and bringing people together in order to focus. Why you think Rowley will not respond or acknowledge LENNOX SMITH? But the day will come when he will say it. Mark my words, he will talk LENNOX SMITH's name in his mouth. Because everybody know there are people who don't know me and saying that they're going to sue me for calling Rowley a rapist and a pedophile. Two old men on some program on Synergy television. And all I say, well, you're smart enough not to give all your name, because all you will have to account as to why all you try to smear me, try to defame me by calling me a liar when I'm talking the truth about Rowley. And there are those, of course, who don't want to hear at all because they know how despicable it is. So I want to tell all you, every single one of those persons who are defending and, of course, appearing to be spokesperson for the PNM, know that their asses are grasses. They know that. They know the PNM has come to the zenith or the end, the terminus of their political existence as far as being in government. They know that. And I am not the type to, of course, in perpetuity give them any credit and say why. We know why. We know why Hitler dominated Germany and generated a blasted World War II, 1939 to 1945. Yes, Rowley has dictatorial tendencies. He is evil, he is diabolical, his policies and programs, you can't trust him. He lies spontaneously and prolifically, and his minions continue, of course, to buttress that. But that is what is required. And if you want to take it biblically, I could go there too. Nobody could tell me that the devil doesn't have. I wouldn't call them angels. It will be equaling the devil with, of course, a certain nuances that we equate or we ascribe to God. So I will say the devil has his imps, and therefore Rowley will have his imps. Yes, an imp, of course, strictly speaking, is a child of the devil. And that is what that is all about. So the symbol that Rowley projects, and you are correct, he will not stop, because it is not in his interest to stop until the jail catch up with him, until he is put in chains, handcuffed, and blue lights. People, he will not stop. If you look at Hitler's biography, you would see, in spite of the fact that Germany was going under, the Allies on one side and the Russians from the other side, and they're descending on, of course, Berlin, and he was saying fight on. And when the inevitable came, but I dare Rowley and them to go and kill themselves. I dare them. No, They're too narcissistic and self-serving and opportunistic. So people like Maduro and Rowley will not kill themselves, just as how I predicted that if Manning had made a jail, he couldn't take it. That's a fella I believe could have killed himself, because he figured that he had projected himself as so honest and so impeccable that to go to jail is like, of course, losing his life. So he didn't mind, of course, losing his life. Rowley, of course, will fight and fight and fight and say he is innocent. You will hear him. You will hear him when the time comes. He'll be growing a beard, and he will, of course, be finally growing a head of hair around his head, and dismissing, of course, that artificial bald head. But he will be calling on Laventil and other places to come down, and they by that and at that time will say, hold your tail, you're on your own, Rowley. And all of those who are around him will say the same thing as they did, as they abandoned Hitler and as they abandoned Saddam Hussein. Yes, that's what happens, as they will abandon Maduro in Venezuela. The difference, the big difference between Trinidad and Venezuela is that Maduro was able, of course, to get the sympathy, for want of a better term, of other rogue states in the world that are confrontational, or prepared to be confrontational with the West. The Western world, I talk about, led by the United States and Europe and Canada and so on. The only difference is that they are similarly powerful in terms of course, nuclear weapons, etc., whether it be Russia, whether it be China, whether it be North Korea, whether it be Iran, whether it be Cuba to a deeply lesser extent. At one time, we could have seen the freedom fighters and the spreading of communism by Cuba at one time, whether on the African continent or among Latin American countries. But that's a distant past. So let us not be too perturbed. We have to do what we have to do individually, collectively, otherwise, preferably. Yes, and you have seen how Maduro was able to stymie all opponents, whether you're in trade union or not, whether you are political activist or not, against his administration. You expect anything different here? What is important is that every constituency must have the majority to get rid of the Rowley administration. I know this called help. I am on radio now. I am on the corridor transformation now. I'll call you after the program. Or is this someone else? Go ahead.
What time that would be?
That will be about the next. Well, I'm supposed to finish at 9, but
okay.
I may go until 10. All right. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sorry about that. People, so you see, people call you at any time because, of course, you are a people's person, and that is one caller that I'm certain of because I noticed the number, so I know what she wanted to get. But the point of the matter, the fact of the matter is that we are clearly and deliberately underestimating ourselves, and we are overestimating Rowley and the man get licks in Tobago. He get licks in the local government elections in spite of all of his shenanigans and his, of course, abuse of the parliament. That is what dictators do. And then claim that they did not subvert anything. Let's not waste time. Therefore, we have to be brutally frank, because election is upon us and we cannot coward and talk nonsense and appear as though infallibility resides in the PNM and Dr. Rowley. Waste of blasted time. A pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yeah, good night, Mr. Lennox.
Good night to you.
Tobago.
Yes.
Mr. Lennox,
hey.
Listen now.
Yeah.
You know, the Venezuelan opposition calling a meeting Saturday coming here. And it's interesting to notice that the PNM are looking to have a meeting Sunday. But on the Venezuelan issue, you notice Rowley and them is very silent.
Of course.
They are very,
birds of feather flock together.
Silent.
Right? Let's not waste time. But he will say that he is not. He will say he's not. He's so kind of, but we know that he did not send even a representative at the OS to discuss, of course, that robbery.
And he feels people stupid in this country, you know. He really believes people stupid, you know. I believe it's his own mob he's speaking to.
Yeah.
Because we know what's going on. We watching world events and we see what is going on, and because we understood that he have a very strong link with Maduro. Right? He believed that he could just pull wool over people like just so. But really don't know you have another thing coming. Because he will have to leave office. Yeah. Because our fingers will show him that.
Yes. And I want to tell everybody that anytime people tell me my program, another program that I'm there, I say about people believing that he go still win the election. Hogwash. Hogwash. They say the same thing about Hitler. Same damn thing about Mussolini. And of course, and dictators across the globe. About Putin too.
Yeah.
About Putin too. But his time ain't reached yet. Evil could never prevail. Go ahead, my friend.
It could never prevail, Mr. Lennox. By the grace of the Most High, the Creator of heaven and earth, we only have to go.
Of course.
One way or the other, and he will go.
Yes.
You understand?
That's the kind
we had enough of we fed up by him, boy.
Yeah.
And we fed up by the PNM, boy. Because you can tell me, it's a big man and woman, they know right from wrong. Are you telling me you're condoning that kind of evil? And seeing the condition, the situation which is going on in the country currently right now? What kind of human being is behaving like that?
And they know what they are doing, but the evil is secondary to their personal aggrandizement and their material accession, which dictators like Rowley are prepared to give, not theirs, the people's, but the power that they would have accumulated by persons who are willing to compromise their integrity, their sense of right and wrong, and sacrifice the people and the vulnerable, young, age, etc. is clear and obvious. That is what happens, and we have to understand that.
Look, Mr. Lennox, have a blessed night and God bless.
Thank you.
You understand? But fire burn this evil wicked PNM.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
good night.
Good night. Good night. Let me quickly go because I realize that I have silenced most people. So let me go and deal with, of course, the Maduro tape. I will continue with that on Saturday. But let me, of course, invite you to take a look, and you will see what is happening in Trinidad is no different to what has happened in Venezuela, but to a lesser degree, and not for 1 minute believe that Rowley is not a blasted dictator and that he could prevail no matter what the circumstance. That is a madness.
70% of the votes based on voting tallies from about 40% of ballot boxes nationwide. The opposition claims Maduro was defeated by a margin of 2-1, publishing ballots from 30,000 voting machines. The government says it also has copies of the ballots but has not published them, nor has the Electoral Authority, whose website has been conveniently down since July 29th. The Carter Center, a pro-democracy group, has stated that the vote could not be considered democratic due to a lack of transparency and bias in favor of the incumbent. Maduro's opponent, Edmundo
every time you
González
see
Urrutia, claims
any
to have secured
instance
a landslide
that is
victory
similar to
amid
Trinidad,
widespread anger
pinch
over
yourself.
Venezuela's economic collapse and migration crisis. Maduro has ordered security forces onto the streets and urged citizens to report protesters
Remember
the government.
remember the what?
He has also
Yes.
claimed that the attempt to remove him from power is part of a global extreme right movement involving politicians
police
such as Argentina's
descending on the
President
pushback
Javier
movement. movement
El Salvador's president
and tear gassing them.
and Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro. The US has expressed serious concerns about the subversion of democratic norms, and Colombia's left-wing president has recognized serious doubts over the result. Despite this, Maduro remains defiant, vowing to resist any attempts to remove him from power by force if necessary. The situation remains precarious, with observers saying Maduro's position is uncertain and Venezuela's political future deeply uncertain. The country is becoming increasingly isolated, with flights suspended and international pressure growing. Peru has become the first country to officially recognize González as Venezuela's president-elect, further increasing tensions. Maduro's claims of a far-right conspiracy are seen as an attempt to divert attention from the allegations of electoral fraud and the growing unrest in the country. His government has been criticized for its handling of the economy, which has led to...
Now pause that one. Rowley recently told us that his government is under threat, that somebody trying to organize to overthrow his government. The SSA, any port for a storm to try to hoodwink and deceive. And I'm sure the majority of the people would have been saying, there you go again, Rowley, and laughing, because they expect that, as they would have expected. Listen to the news coming out of Venezuela. Every nation of the world expected that is a red herring Maduro will throw in order to stay in office and deflect attention from his ruthless, brutal, heinous, nasty, wicked, heartless, and indurate disposition.
Widespread poverty and a massive migration crisis. The opposition, led by González and Maria Corina Machado, has called for peaceful protests and demands a recount of the votes. However, Maduro's government has responded with force, leading to clashes between protesters and security forces. The international community is increasingly concerned about the situation in Venezuela, with many countries calling for a fair and...
Let me pause there again. Well, after the 2020 elections, not providing, of course, independent observers, so at least it could legitimize everybody, including, of course, the administration. But no, he wants an unfair advantage, as Maduro did. As Maduro did. And when ballot papers were found in Arima and elsewhere, Rowley and Imbert were up and down the country. After, of course, the opposition, Kamala Prasad Bisesa said, listen, we want a recount of at least 5 thereabout constituencies, and she will not accede defeat. The EBC went to work, and the EBC was organizing counting only with the presence of the PNM representatives, whilst Rowley and they were doing a number on the outside, saying, well, listen, the opposition only delayed because all they wanted was to get sworn in, and once they get sworn in, after an election, it's difficult. It's like pulling teeth from a baby to, of course, dislodge them. They know that. They know that. It's just like swearing in a chief justice or a prime minister, and when he gone rogue, nothing you could do about it, including a president. That is the system we have, because they assume that these people would be morally and ethically and, of course, acting in the interest of the people. And what we have seen with this prime minister, who, of course, effectively is an executive president in all practicality, because he controls the purse strings of the country, and therefore will determine who become a minister, which ministry get more money than the other, who will get a contract, as we have seen. And then you have the despicable display, not only of that symbolism of autocracy and dictatorship. While Rowley didn't make a bust or a statue of himself, what he has done, taking our money and constructing Balize House, that is the symbol, that is the substitute. But in Venezuela, they were pulling down statues of Chavez and, of course, this fella Maduro. They tell me about, and of course in Iraq, they pulled down. That was a spectacular event of pulling down, of course, the statue of Saddam Hussein. El Rowley's statue is Balize House, a total exemplification of dictatorial tendency and a running commentary running commentary and reality. So we are making the comparison.
Transparent election. The US has imposed sanctions on Venezuelan officials, and the European Union has also expressed its concern. As isolation grows, Maduro's rhetoric has become...
Let's look at sanctions as far as America and Trinidad is concerned. Rowley was able to evade sanctions with the presence of Delcy Rodriguez here. That nobody was supposed to know. It was supposed to be secret. And I want to thank, of course, at the same time, those whistleblowers in the various ministries who said no. That is why we were able to find out. They didn't want that to happen because a part of a dictator's agenda, part of their modus operandi is secrecy. They will murder people in secrecy and say it's not them. They will construct, generate, and manufacture evil circumstance, and our own is manifested in the form of setting up Anand Ramlogan and Ramdeen by the government paying, this government, Rowley government paying $10 million to Vincent Nelson to go as false witness against them so he could say he catch up big fish, and he was up and down the country just as Maduro was dancing before the elections, suggesting that somehow he win. And of course, the electoral agency, just as our EBC here, declaring him with 51% of the votes. I talk about Maduro. It's the same damn thing here. They infiltrate, of course, the EBC, and Rowley cannot distance himself from that factor, because there are two instances that we must remember. I'm not talking ad hominem or talking by guess. So at the end of the day, the constituencies, the people therein must now decide what they should do, because it is still legal and of course secret to vote. And so when he went to Parliament and increased the number of seats in Tobago, that is an example of manipulating the EBC, because he expected them to do their part, as they did. Yes. And when they speed up the recount in 2020, that was part of it. And when he did not bring international observers, that was part of it too. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night.
Good night, Lennox. It's me again.
Yes.
Lennox.
Hey.
You know, back in June, like I think it was July 28th, I think, when the election was coming up in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before the election, you know what Maduro said, and it was actually quoted in many newspapers. He said, "If I don't win this election, there's going to be a bloodbath and a civil war."
Yes.
And that really,
you'll hear it in this clip as well. You'll hear it in this clip. You'll hear it in this clip as well. Yes, that statement.
Yeah.
A threat to the people.
True, it was a fact.
Yeah.
And that echoed, it resonated throughout the South American countries, because there are some countries that are very shaky right now in South America. And we know that because of the drug trafficking and the cartels that take place. That also goes towards Mexico too, right? I'm talking about the OAS too, eh? Because we kind of focusing on Venezuela. When Maduro made that statement, Lula da Silva, who is the president of Brazil,
yes,
he said he was very blunt, and he said it just plainly. They asked his comment, and he said, you know what, Maduro has to learn that when you win, you stay. When you lose, you leave. And that is like Trump in a lot of ways. Trump is promising more to come if he loses the election. And I think,
and don't be surprised if Rowley does that. Don't put it beyond Rowley. He has already laid the foundation for that when he is claiming that somebody want to overthrow his government. That time he wanted if Fali and them weren't bright and smart and understood where he's coming from. He wanted to overthrow and still do, in my view, the administration in Tobago right now, because he desperately wants those 2 seats. So he's going to do any damn thing, because his ass is grass. Go ahead.
The prime minister makes all these wild, bold statements, and he makes all these accusations against the UNC, and he rattles up the crowd. He incites the anger and the hatred.
Thank God they're in
And
the
then
few. They're in fewer and fewer and fewer, yeah.
He makes himself the victim and the poor guy.
Yeah.
Like, remember when he went to New York to ring the stock exchange bell, right? This man literally said, in front of a press conference, he said, and his constituents, he said, I had no clothes when I went to New York. I had to go to Macy's and buy a suit for $100 because I had to go and ring the bell and I didn't know what to wear. I had no clothes. This is a man who travels literally on an airplane every week. He flies all over the
country. More than Kamala, let's not waste time. More than Kamala, even though he was castigating Kamala when she was at the PM's wheel, so to speak. Go ahead.
But it's like our prime minister should be living on an airplane. And he kind of, even right, I don't even know if he's in the country right now, but he's always gone. But when he comes back, he makes himself look so humble, and he makes himself look so pitiful sometimes.
Yeah, that's part
but
of the
we
narcissistic.
know that it's all a show to make us feel sorry for him, because he's always the victim. He's always this poor guy. You know, if they're out to get him, they want to crush him. And
I'm a humble black man. I'm a proud black man. Nobody can give me banana. Banana is for monkey. That son of a gun.
Yeah, and he speaks to us like that. But the nuts way something is, you know, and he uses these derogatory remarks, and he's not educating us. He's not lifting us up. You know, he tells us a woman have to make choices, that you have to make smart choices. Mr. Prime Minister, 3 children, young boys, escaped from one of your homes in the Children's Authority. And when they were found, the woman called Children's Authority 4 times, 5 times, and nobody picked up the phone. You call agencies and nobody picks up the phone.
Or if it has political public relations, then you will see them running like Donald Cox told the people when they were lining up for hampers. She said they're greedy, and after that, when she realized how it was politically, it generated a political firestorm. She just goes up to Londonville in Shogunas and praying that she's visiting a very, of course, what I consider desperate and abject poverty families. That is the kind of brutality we have purported to be ministers in this country.
They've hardened themselves over the years, because if you notice, many of those people in the PNM, their parents were PNMs, high-level jobs, family was a judge, this person was a minister, these were all people within that network of people who have power and money.
But just like
even if they were to commit sexual harassment, they get by. They get a promotion to travel all over the world. You know what I mean?
Don't mind me interjecting, because it's important.
No, go
because
ahead,
we want to make sure that we understand what is happening here. Just as that situation with respect, of course, to traditional and connected to the PNM, and you will get a job and so on. The fact of the matter is, just as Maduro, you are institutionalizing what? Mediocrity. The country falls. You're sitting on the largest reserve in the world of energy, of oil, and you cannot make $1 from it because of your nasty policy and your putting of square peg in round hole scenario. That is what the PNM and Rowley has intensified right now when he pulled out from the 400 open scholarship and reduce it to 100, and then take that and add some money to it and either put it in the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Community Development for people that are recommended by the PNM to go in the university and so on, and come back come back with what I consider to be mediocre degrees and hold all the major jobs in the public service. They have suspended employment or matriculation in the public service just to wait for these people. That is the kind of evil we have, but it cannot develop Trinidad.
The whole public service system needs to be overhauled.
Of course.
Because those jobs are just created to get votes and to keep the people who are in power.
And let me tell you this, as sorry for interjecting, but I am going to interject as I see fit. Now, that has created, as we saw with Maduro, he has put the judiciary together, and then he called on them now to settle the matter with the votes, knowing full well what the outcome will be, because he put them there, as he put together the electoral committee or the electoral commission, similar to our EBC in Venezuela.
Absolutely,
you feel people
right.
we are asked,
and
no asked.
the consequences.
The
consequences of that corruption means that we have slow service. When you need help and you have to file paperwork, it
because
takes months and years.
They believe that
you have to get a deed, you have to pay thousands of dollars, you have to pay all these stamp duty tax. If the prime minister, with a wave of a magic wand, he pays like little and nothing. He gets all these little exemptions. He doesn't even have to report anything. How many ministers
they have to serve him because they are beholden to him. They have to serve him because they're beholden to him and the PNM. Understand that? That is what that is all about. A network of mediocrity.
We're having these conversations, but we should hold any politician to that standard. Yeah. All politicians should be up to that standard, not just the PNM. It's across the board. Yeah. So I also wanted to say that with Venezuela, Venezuela has a very high rate of children who drop out of school. Yet the government of the United States, through the OAS and all these nice things they're doing, gave us humanitarian aid in the form of money to help the children go to school from Venezuela, go to school here. Our own poor people can't buy books for their children. And yet the Prime Minister is blind and deaf to this. It boggles the mind. And I think that this kind of conversation we're having, we need to face the reality that we are going to morph into a Venezuela.
That's right.
Because right now they're hurting us all together. All these migrants are living in our villages. They can't speak English. They're marrying. It's okay that they're marrying, but it's like chaotic. It's very chaotic.
Yes,
if you understand, if you get it, Well,
thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, for our engagement. That's a fact. All of the elements are there. You promoting mediocrity and ensuring that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and this is what this man is all about. But imagine you couldn't see that Israel Khan was a superior candidate to that of the present president. And at minimum, even though he showed that tendency, because he was in fact Kamala Prasad Bissasa's attorney, and he has demonstrated, of course, from time to time, but always never abandoning his objectivity, as opposed to Kangaloo. She was always biased and in favor of the PNM, and therefore that would have been the crushing blow and the objective criteria for saying that Khan is a more superior candidate. But no, you want to dominate that, dominate the EBC, dominate the Police Service Commission, dominate, of course, all of the institutions, including, of course, all of those 4 or 5 years that they created coming out of Petrotrin, and we can go on and on. Let's not waste time, including, of course, the Police Service Commission, apart from the Public Service Commission, and all the other commissions that would require, of course, some intervention and some support to get its board going, or its operations moving, by the titular or sitting political entity that is in office at that point in time, forming the government. Let's not waste time. And I was making a point, just as Rowley, if we did not find out about the true situation with Brent Thomas and with Vincent Nelson, Rowley would have continued to try to hoodwink the population, gaslight the population, that the government had nothing to do with it. But here it is, the stinking, poisonous tentacles of Al-Rari, the then Attorney General, was all over that incident that forced the DPP, even though, of course, there are some questions surrounding his potency and his objectivity and his independence. But at least on that occasion, it was so damn glaring, and studying career, I'm sure, had to be. He decided to withdraw those charges against Anand Ramnugan and Ramdeen. But other than that, Rowley would have continued to be up and down the place, saying that that incident where Nelson was made to give a statement to literally put these people in jail. Rowley was up and down the country saying that, you remember Pamasa, who became a state witness? The ass does not understand that in a criminal matter you can't pay people to become a witness. A person will become a state witness if they have some benefit, being part and parcel and avoiding being charged. Then of course that is an incentive for them to turn as state witness. The state itself of course felt that they needed that particular witness to secure a conviction of the, let's say, the direct perpetrator of the crime, who shot the person who pulled the trigger in such circumstance. This nincompoop up and down the place. Pamasa, you remember Pamasa? You remember Pamasa? Your ass. And at the end of the day, it was concluded that it was he, his cabinet, and his attorney general then conspired to pervert the course of the criminal justice system. Rowley, the hole you dig for others. It's just a matter of time. And you love history? Well, remember Hitler. I'm sure you know about Hitler. I'm sure you know about, and I'm sure you know about Maduro as well, and what he's going to face. And I'm sure you know about the former Pan-American or Panama president, Noriega, and what happened to him. People, of course, we have come to the end. Is 3 minutes past the hour. No, I'm missing 3 hours. And actually looking like a 1 minute. Yes, 1 minute past the hour of 10 o'clock. I didn't have on my glasses at that moment, so that's how bad my eyes are. So we weren't able to finish, of course, that video, but we'll do that on Saturday night. Of course, I have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. I will not be on tomorrow night as per usual. I know I have a lot of, should I say, expecting listenership and so on that really would have liked me to be on to continue this conversation. But we have to tell these people as it is. And those who are skeptical, stand aside. Those who are living in a to and fro, who are living, of course, in a state of pessimism, in a state of believing that somehow Rowley go win the next election. I say to you, step aside. Step aside. That is not an election that could be determined in that way. And I'm going to show you why, because we have it right next door. When your neighbor's house is on fire, you wet yours. Every single person must now understand. And don't tell me you don't know that the PNM lost the 1986 election to the G3. Don't tell me you don't know that they lost, of course, the 1995 1995 elections to Pandey, and the 1995, the 2000 elections. And don't tell me I didn't know they lost the 2010 elections. And don't tell me I don't know that the UNC was behind in the local government elections, and they either equal and overwhelm in terms of the popular votes. Don't tell me that. And don't tell me I don't know that, of course, they get their ass cut in Tobago. In spite of Dr. Rowley's acting as Maduro, influencing the parliament with his tenuous 22 seats. And then, of course, getting the follow-up from the EBC to divide up PNM electoral districts in Tobago, to add the 3, and then what? Cotas like rain. Lucky, there is a PNM representative in Tobago today. As far as the Tobago House of Assembly elections, as far as the Tobago House of Assembly is concerned. But certainly, if I was him, my ass will be, of course, palpating for those 2 seats in Tobago. And 2 from 22 leaves what? 20. And for sure, the UNC will get some 27 seats in Trinidad. I will identify those at minimum. At minimum, he will be lucky. Lucky. If it is not a repeat of 1986, but with a different configuration. A different configuration. You think 14-1 is spectacular? Don't be surprised. The evil men must follow them. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when dishonorable conmen criminals seek honorable office, the only outcome is what we are having today. It is so for Maduro as it is for Rowley in Trinidad. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless, as we continue, of course, to deal with these and other issues tomorrow morning on the Ground Report. Andy, Mikey, and myself.
Bubble and corruption, home of them big liars, big thieves of millions of dollars. Don't trust none of them, them is the real problem. They're doing what they want, so they be put up them. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM. King Rowley, King Imbert, King Farras, King Stuart, living high, dictatorship style. Putting tears in the poor people's eyes. We not voting, them fucking PNM. We not voting, them fucking PNM.
For them out, they go Martin West. For them out, they go Martin East. For them out, San Fernando West. St. Anne's West, for Spain North. For them out, for them out, for them out, for them out, for them out.
Rowley acting like a dictator. He and Maduro moving together. They bring down Delcy Rodriguez and be citizens, oh they crying tears. They want the US to sanction we, cause more poverty. They're doing we what they want, so let me put up there. We not voting.
Rowley, you dog. Low high the crime rate is in the country now, boy. Forest, come down, Imbut, come down. UNC, in tongue. I don't want to leave you on top the horse. I need you to come down here for me now. You're claiming PNM them is boss, but look how high the crime rate is now. PNM feel the bright, they can win election tonight. Come down from there, Rowley. Make me choke with that vibe. Champa, coach you them, they not nice. Come down from there, Rowley. I just want to warn you, before the mixing would concern you. They went like keto and walk voodoo for the people and them to vote you. On the IG post you look nice, 1 million followers, 1 million likes. In the grocery the food price high, give we 2% and see we reply. That man can mama guy, you feel it too bright. Yeah, we need election tonight. Come down from there, Rowley. Take me to pay that vice. Calling in with them, they not nice. Come down from there, Rowley. come down from there. Hands where you come down. You're going on the beat of the mama guy, poor people. Good, you get wet down. Champa always in a zest. Least for development in a mess. Coming to the government credit card arrest. Remember when you buy all the wig and dress? Comments are millions, if you check. Tell the people them how you get it. PNM government them unfit. Every minute them would raise the budget. PNM government them unfit. Suffer poor people in pandemic. PNM government them unfit. Give we 2%.
Since you take over as Prime Minister, it's plenty pressure. We have to suffer, and you will do nothing better. Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Oh, Rowley really have to go. Since you come in power, you is a big failure. Collapse the economy and they do nothing for we. What you have to show, we don't really know. What you have to show, we don't really know. Sorry Trinidad and Tobago, but Rowley really have to go.
It's not for people like you and me. It is for all them politicians. And I dig in their grave, no fuck with me hand. I find some of them, they living too long. And every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead, just shame to lie down. So I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he. With joy in my heart, put him down with glee. All of them useless politicians, only making up numbers in my island. Alrari, I refuse body. I leave them Muslim, them to deal with he. Big smile on my face and with maybe a hand. It's time to move trash from out of this land. Will prepare his body. Make sure he have a sardonic grin on his face. That's all he does do. That man is a waste. Bury in the back of my cemetery. Turn he upside down. He face I can see. Look for the strongest grave digger to cover he. Not with the hand, put good fork on he. Gypsy, political grasshopper. I may feel little pity cause he's my brother. But like Tarzan, he's swinging from vine to vine. It's time I help you to make up your mind. Fitzgerald, Rasta City. I know they go glad to get the body. Resi on beat and don't fall to see. Drink 2 beers and watch Coco get happy. But Kamala, I not ready to bury. I don't care all who go vex with me. But Kamala, I not ready to bury. She is a strong, determined woman like me and deserve a chance to run this country. When she in power, I don't go hungry. And Calypsonian does get big money. She don't deserve no spot in my cemetery. I putting she in the center of the city. I don't care all who go vex with me. But Kamala, I not ready to bury. She is a strong, determined woman like me and deserve a chance to run this country. When she in power, I don't go hungry. And Calypsonian does get big money. She don't deserve no spot in my cemetery. I putting she in the center of the city. Paula.
From the Trinidad, location 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. SOS, SOS, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Help! Oil pressure reading low. Shall we abandon ship or shall we